Good evening, everybody. I'm Abir Shinawi.
Good evening. I'm Doug Handy, and welcome to Real Talk, our space.
Yes. So we're closing off our series for October, which is Maryland Stories or American Miniature. I've always said that Doug taught me something new. And so today is an exciting show because, of course, we're closing it off with a hip hop theme, but we're also talking sneakerheads. I like to consider myself a sneakerhead, but I'm like touching just the surface of sneakerheads and politics for the last episode of the month. And we have a returning guest, but a dear friend of ours as well.
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm gonna balance that out because I am about as far as it gets from a sneakerhead. Probably have more like hard bottoms and brown shoes than I've ever had sneakers. So I will be learning quite a bit from our guest and from Abir about the ins and outs of being a sneakerhead. Mm-hmm. However, always down to talk politics and can talk about hip hop even in my sleep. So the fact it's hip hop day, it means it's a good day. So everything else is just gravy. So we're literally looking forward to this evening's episode.
Great. And regardless if Doug is a hip hop head or not, but I have to say he's a very fly dresser.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice clothes, you know. And didn't a kid say you dress rich or something once? What did he say? You dress rich?
Y'all the great story. Yeah.
Tell it.
Well, of course, I can't. You put me on the spot. I got the worst memory. I'm an old guy, right? Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, the idea that if a student saw me dressing like a suit and said, you look like you got money. Mm. And a lot of times we complain about, students are, they're not into the learning or, they seem to be distracted. And I think we can all agree that everyone wants to, be able to live independently or support themselves, support a family, that type of thing. So to me, I think from then I was sold. Like I always wanted to wear a suit inside of a school building. So
it's true. It's the Justin Timberlake suit and tie. That's Doug Handy right there.
That's right. So I spread my sneaker money out like across,
That's his excuse. Anyway, so remember to follow us on our YouTube channel, Real Talk Our Space, and also you can always hit us up at our email, realtalkourspace@gmail.com. If you have any ideas or if you'd love to be on our show, let us know. We are up for any of that.
Yes.
So without further ado, let's introduce our guest today. Again, we said he's a returning guest, Joe Teng, good friend of ours. So he's first generation Chinese American who is fluent in Hakka, which I learned is also Chinese, I believe, dialect. He could speak about that for us. His parents were born and raised in Calcutta, India, and migrated to America in the mid-1980s. He was born in New Jersey and has since lived in India, New York, and Baltimore. And then Joe is also a resource teacher for Baltimore County Public Schools and enjoys working with kids of all ages. In his free time, he collects sneakers, of course, golfs. That's a big contradiction right there, but we love it. And enjoys eating foods of all culture. So without further ado, we would like to introduce our friend Joe Teng. What up, Joe?
Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
What's good?
Hey,
thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I was really nervous. You were like, "Hey, you want to be on the show?" I was like, "Sure." I thought it'd be another panel of a whole bunch of people, and then I see the flyers like just my face on it. I'm like, "Oh, great." I'm like, I'm no expert in anything, so I'm like, should I start brushing up on I'm definitely not a hip hop historian. I enjoy hip hop, but so then I thought more about I'm going to show up as myself because quite often at times I feel like we're too afraid of what other people think. Which then just looking at the flyer, hip hop, politics. I'm like, my whole life, I always looking over your shoulder, like who's watching, who's judging me right now for whatever I'm about to say. And it's just like, I'm here with friends. So I'm going I'm just going to enjoy the time we have together here.
I love it. And just to let you know, Joe, so when I got the picture of you and your wife, Doug made it very clear to me not to crop out your wife since I cropped him out the last time I put the picture. He's still in his feelings. So your wife should appreciate me. You're welcome, your wifey. So
I know. Joe, let your wife know she made the cut. I did not. So I could not stand next to Joe, but according to a beer.
Lord.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
So Joe, we kind of want to pick up from last time. So for those that are avid viewers, we kind of picked up with the same bio. Joe was here doing our immigration episode over the summer. So Joe, you've got this story where you were living almost like in the heart of hip hop itself, but then New York, New Jersey, tri-state area. So then you come down to Maryland. So talk to us about how, when you did move to Maryland, how did your taste in hip hop change as you relocated?
So when I was looking at some of the notes, I was trying to think like, how am I supposed to pick top 5? Like just like, how am I supposed to start thinking about how hip hop influenced me and changed me and molded me? And I started thinking about, I almost divide my life into 2 chapters. It's like before Maryland and after Maryland.
I like that.
So I'm just going to jump right into, you're probably going to ask me later about it, but I just want to jump into my top 5 before Maryland.
Okay.
And you're gonna sense a theme here. So it's Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie, DMX, and Wu-Tang.
Straight New York, right?
All New York.
Right.
So to me, growing
You're
up,
lucky I'm not from the West Coast. I would have bounced on that one, but okay, keep going.
And I might have mentioned it last time too, but like for me growing up, like New York was the world.
Right.
There was nothing that mattered outside of New York City.
Correct.
New York was huge. It had all these people. And it was literally like, I grew up in Flushing, which was a melting pot of people.
How many languages are spoken in the area you grew up in again? I remember you shared that article with us.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't even remember.
Too many.
A lot,
That's
100.
insane.
I believe 100.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And the way I grew up, so I grew up a block away from a very Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, but down the street was like my courtyard where.
Was that Jefferson Heights? Is that what it's called, or Jackson Heights?
Jackson Heights wasn't too far from where I live. I live in Kew Garden Hills.
Okay.
So
I'm talking about the Orthodox community.
Yeah, like right. I mean, there's a lot of people everywhere, and so it's just it was just a beautiful way of growing up and just embracing diversity. But yeah, it was like, we were poor. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 9 people in it. So I knew the struggle, and I knew what I didn't want for my future, which was just that. My parents worked really hard. When I say fresh off the boat, like my dad jumped ship to get here back in the 80s. He was he worked on cargo ships, a merchant marine, I think that's what they're called. And so sorry, Dad, that I'm putting your business out there. But him and my uncle, his
You're
best
honoring
friend,
his struggle.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Like these are the things that create it, like build us up, right? These are what create our identity. So at one point they were from India and they got to America and they got off the boat and they never got back on.
Wow.
And so then they made their way from New Orleans up to New Jersey, where he had a family friend who took him in, gave him work, and then ended up sponsoring them to become citizens. So then they became citizens, and then my dad had found out. I think he saw a picture of my mom at one point, and she was living in Calcutta at the time. She just finished high school. My dad didn't finish 3rd grade. Like he never made it past grade school. He just, in the streets of India, just doing whatever he had to do to get by.
Right.
And he would never tell me these stories, but other people would tell me all these stories about how infamous my dad was. And I was like, what? This guy? I was like, I didn't know. I knew he was badass, but I didn't know it was like that. Yeah, but then they moved back to he went out there, he asked her out, and then they got married right away, moved back to America, had me, and they didn't have the money to take care of me. So I lived in India with my grandma for 3-4 years. And then we moved to Queens, and that's when I became a New Yorker. And so New York hip hop, Nas, Queens, I didn't like Jay-Z at first, but then with the back and forth between the two of them, they brought the best out of each other. Biggie, greatest storyteller of all time, gone too soon.
Yep.
Pepsi's doing a collaboration with Christopher Wallace Foundation.
Yeah, I saw a commercial.
Pretty cool.
DMX, oh my goodness, when he first came out, it was scary. It was scary.
There's an inside joke with that one, but that's why I laugh. That's DMX's Doug's dude.
I give it to you. Joe kind of put me on to him. So Joe kind of hit me back. Because I knew about DMX.
Right.
But Joe, especially that new Locks track, about ish. Yeah, Joe put me on to. He made me kind of revisit DMX, appreciate him a lot more. So
okay.
And then he did that back and forth, that verses with Snoop.
Yes.
That was hilarious because it's
The
old
freestyle
DMX, old DMX, out of breath DMX, but still trying to kill. Just growling like
Right.
an old dog.
And Snoop kept encouraging him. He was like, "Come on!" When he was trying to freestyle, it was so funny. He was like, "Come on, you can do it."
Two totally different energies right there.
Yes.
Totally different. Like Snoop is one of the most chill people I think you could ever meet. And DMX is, like you said, Joe, or trying to be.
Yeah.
So how did you change when you moved to Maryland? What does it have to do with New York versus Maryland? What's the difference?
So when we moved out of New York, out of a 2-bedroom apartment, we moved into a townhouse, and I thought this is the biggest house I've ever set foot in.
And you got to take in context, New York property is expensive, space is valuable.
Right.
So when you move from something small to something big, people don't understand that if they don't live in a big city.
Right. But I felt like I didn't want to move the first time my parents told me. I ran away, and I lived with some friends for a couple of weeks. I refused to go, and I was like, I'm not doing it. My uncle reached out and was like, hey, like, just go try it out. If you don't like it, come back. You can come back, live with me. I was like, all right, fine. So I went. A couple of weeks go by, I get a phone call from a friend's mom telling me something tragic had happened. And at that point, I was kind of like, because we were young, we were dumb, we had to do whatever we wanted. We did whatever we had to do. And where I had moved to in Perry Hall, like Baltimore County, like the suburbs, it was not like that at all. Like,
it's a big
kids my age weren't doing things that we were doing back they were riding bicycles and scooters.
Right.
So I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't for me. But after getting that phone call, I was like, maybe. And that was the first time in my life I had questioned a higher power. And I thought maybe that this is something new. This is something different. So as far as the hip hop went, it wasn't gangster rap anymore. It wasn't about, that I can tell that wasn't who I was anymore. So it was almost like an identity crisis at that point where I was like, well, who am I then? Like what kind of I can't, if I'm no longer, if this is no longer telling my story, then what is telling my story? So then that's when Tupac was introduced to me. Now Tupac was gangster rap, but at the same time, he was also so complex. Like he sang about the girls, he sang about his mother. Yeah, he sang about,
he sang about women.
Yeah.
Keep your head up. He talked about women and that struggle. Yeah.
Brenda had a baby.
She did.
She did.
So then Tupac was like the first time I branched out, because I mean it was Biggie and not Tupac, for me in my life. But then that was the first time I was like, all right, I'll start giving him a listen. And I was like, wow, like he's here, he's there, he's all over the place with it.
Right.
And that's when I started like kind of dabbling into like the more emotional side of music on the hip hop. Like it wasn't about being alpha, it wasn't about being, like it wasn't about that anymore. So then I moved on to like Outkast. So I started listening to a lot of 3000. I think most people agree he's better than Big Boy, but I mean they both brought it, But he was also like this emo, eccentric, like he dressed weird, but his words were like poetry, And that's when I started thinking more about like it wasn't just about rhyming; it was more about what they're actually saying.
Yeah, it's funny you mention Andre 3000 because I've been on an Outkast like binge lately. And I agree with you on their lyrics and the poetry and even the style of music that they use is just, I love their line. I'm going to screw it up, but something like you can plan a picnic, but you can't predict the weather. Like, I love it. But it's funny you say Outkast because I agree with you. Like they are poetry, but they give such a different flavor.
Yeah. So then the theme I started seeing is that the music I started listening to was outside of New York, because to me, I was so closed off and everything was New York. But then it was like kind of like branching out here and there. Like one of my favorite rappers recently is Drake. For the past since the late 2010 or something like that, he came out with a mixtape like so far. So the mixtape era was like a whole, like we talked last time about mixtapes being like cassette players.
Right.
Now the mixtape is like these these solo tracks that these artists throw out there to try to get some notoriety.
Right.
So, I mean, Drake's been killing it for years now. And And
But he's
here's the one thing.
Canadian, eh?
Yeah. Here's something else. I
He
was
was
like,
on Degrassi,
I
right?
was like, I'm gonna tell everyone that like I'm a fan of Drake. I'm like, you know what? I am gonna tell everyone because you know, just like how Tupac was, I'm not comparing the two. What I'm saying is, just like Tupac was complex, Drake is too.
Really?
He is. He's over here and over there also. And the funny thing about he's very self-aware too. Like he knows, like in the era of social media, he's all about calling himself a clown, goofing off, and just like, you know, I mean, he just had a hip hop beef battle with Pusha T.
Yeah.
And that was intense. It got personal.
Yeah, I did follow that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's
like,
got a lot of range. I mean, I'm no expert on Drake, but I follow. I kind of pick up what Joe's putting down a little bit.
Yeah, I went back and listened to Nothing Was the Same last night. And I was like, yeah, this is good. Like
So you're saying you went from hardcore, more what's the word, like, you know, New Yorkers are very egocentric type of music, to kind of what some people would call bubblegum rap in a sense, but not so much so, like a little bit more on the softer sides because you moved to the suburbs. So you kind of acclimated your taste to your environment.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. It's kind of like I said earlier, it didn't tell my story anymore. And so somebody who didn't grow up, and like, I don't think Drake was like a teenage TV show guy. Like he didn't.
Yeah, he was on Degrassi Junior High.
He was an actor.
He didn't grow up in poverty.
Some people think he's still an actor.
That's true.
That's why I'm saying when you said complex, I'm like.
But I mean, go ahead, Joe. We can weigh on this later.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm saying, like, also I'm younger than you guys.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm taking what does age have to do with it?
I mean, let's be honest. Like the transitioning our conversation to like what we're dealing with now. This is the worst time in my generation.
Right.
For my generation, this is the worst time in America because of all the stuff that's happening politically, racially. Like we're seeing an uprising right now that we never had to deal with before.
Right.
And so, like, for the first time, we're starting to question the emotional side. You start to get in touch with some of that stuff and be like, what's really what right now? You know?
Right. I'm not going to appreciate the connection because I remember in college, a friend of mine, he really got into Tupac, and it was for the same reasons Joe's talking about, because he was like, sometimes I feel like a revolutionary. He's like, sometimes I feel like chasing women. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He was just like, or, he loved his mom, like Tupac. Like to him, Tupac embodied all this humanity, right?
Yes.
He wasn't just this. And I it's funny, like I probably know more about like looking at like some of Drake's song titles. It's very apparent, like Joe's saying, he's apparently very reflective. He does cover quite a bit. I mean, like if you're going to beef with somebody like Pusha T, then apparently you got something in you for the battle. At the same time, he appeals to the ladies. So it's like he covers a lot of what hip hop covers. And I could certainly see his appeal. And like you said, I mean, multi-platinum. Do they still follow those? Whatever. I mean, he's got serious appeal, right?
He's no revolutionary, but he knows how to follow the money also, like you said.
Yeah, and there's no, qualm about that. I think our generation, so we're talking about generations here, came from a lot of struggle that these hardcore rappers were discussing. We talk about Ice Cube, for example. Things he was talking about 20, 30 years ago is also still relevant. What makes people also still have that being relevant, and they the legacy that they own. I think that's I think for me, looking at music is what makes you matter is how relevant you are 10, 20, 30 years, or even after your death. So we wonder if some of these artists are going to last.
It'll be to be seen.
We don't know. Yeah. So
it's
but they have that first part. They had the relevance of, the relevance they've covered, right? That's the thing. And then legacy, we'll see. But yeah, Joe.
And as I say, it's funny you say that, because another one I thought, like, as far as my influences post New York, is Kanye West. When I was in high school, Kanye came out with College Dropout.
Yeah.
And he was considered like a backpack rapper. Like he didn't have gangster. He didn't have that swag.
He came from privilege. Oh, he didn't grow up on the streets. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's Chicago, right? Like you know all about it, but like he came out with a different kind of swag, and that was like the fashion aspect of it. That was, I mean, when we start talking about sneakers and hip hop, he's one of the main reasons why how hip hop artists broke through on the sneaker scene. It wasn't,
and the fashion scene, if you think about it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
his nickname was the Louis Vuitton Don. Like he,
Right.
He
he
said
was,
it himself.
Yep.
but like talking about legacy, and he came out with hit after hit after hit for years,
Mhm.
and in past recent years, like we can't even look at him the same way anymore.
It's a
So then it's
Kardashian
like,
effect. I'm sorry. Mhm.
But they say
So-
pre Kim Kanye. That's what it
Mhm. It's true. Like Graduation is, I think, one of the best albums ever.
Graduation was great. 808
Yes.
Heartbreaks was great.
Yep.
My Twisted Dark Fantasy was
Yep,
great.
yep,
Like
that's the one, Joe, and I
good
appreciate.
stuff.
So,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. We want to grab a couple comments.
Yes.
Okay, we got some.
What's up, dog? That's
Hey,
Rusty
Rusty.
Valentine.
What up, Rusty? Yeah, Rusty, it's me.
That's Doug. Yes, that's the Douglas you know, Rusty.
That's right, my guy. Good to see you, Rusty.
So, Doug, you'd probably know Rusty from Howard County, I'm assuming.
Oh my goodness, Rusty and I go back. So I taught with a mutual friend of ours. We
Mhm.
taught high school together. Actually, same school where Z taught.
Mm.
We all taught
Okay.
at Wild Lake together. And
Got it.
then when I got to Baltimore County, Rusty and I connected kind of early on. And yeah, Rusty's my guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say Rusty does some DJing too. I don't want to.
Mm.
I thought we talked about that at some point, but yeah, Rusty's a good dude.
Rusty was my assistant principal when I was at Parkville High.
Yeah, Parkville, right? Yep.
Yes, and
Because
we
he was
called
at
him
Parkville when I first got
Dog.
to BPS.
DAWG, dog.
Right. And then Vernon's weighing in on
Mhm.
Outcast. Yes, the
They are
versatility is
versatile.
serious.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, I remember when I was first introduced to them, even though I was in the South, I was in North Carolina at college, and I had some friends from Georgia, and they were like, check out Outcast. I remember I thought it was that first album. I thought it was the worst. So I'm thinking about what Joe was saying, because at that time it was straight New York. Like I needed the boom bap. Like that's it. I didn't want to hear what but now I'm like you. A beer, you go back and revisit that. You know what I'm saying? Joe, you talked about even lyrically having like a more appreciation for even like Big Boy now, but they've aged extremely well.
Yes.
So yeah,
yes.
Outcast, and then
Outcast is everlasting.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. Yeah, you got to appreciate Tupac, right? And get to know him yourself. That's right, Vernon. Right.
And talking about age, like I love it when people try to make us feel old, right? Julia, you taught at Wild Lake. I went to Wild Lake Middle School for 6th grade.
Julia, we can talk about that later. I probably would have been your teacher if I stuck around a little longer. I got a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Joe, thank you for sharing your story. So we talked hip hop. Now let's talk about things that you and I really appreciate, right? So when and how did you become a sneaker connoisseur?
Self-professed.
Yes.
Connoisseur.
So growing up poor.
Right.
There were many things I wanted but couldn't have.
Yes.
And so sneakers were something that was a status symbol.
Yep.
My best friend David at the time, he would, every time a new Jordan dropped, he would get it, and he would let me wear them. He would let me wear his shoes.
That's love, man. That
was love. That was love. So much love.
Yeah.
But I never had my own. And so I hated Michael Jordan because he killed the Knicks every year.
Look at Abir.
The Knicks had no. All right, Abir can't be mad. She's got 6 championships.
I'm not mad. I just think it's funny. Y'all hating on, what is it? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Y'all didn't know how to play the game. Seriously. John Stark was like, whatever. Anyway,
don't go in on John Stark. You can't. That's not allowed. All right, so I hated Jordan because he beat up on the Knicks and his shoes were expensive.
Yep. There you go.
2 legit reasons,
But growing up, I was like,
But also, Ewing shoes were ugly.
Ewing shoes were ugly.
They were ugly.
They were his own brand, I think. The Ewing.
Yeah, come on.
I thought they were Adidas. His own brand.
Whatever, but they were still.
He might have
I'm
had
sorry,
Adidas,
Patrick Ewing, if you're out there.
No, they weren't fresh at the least. Nah.
No, come on now. Let's be
real.
Maybe
people in New York like the high top. I mean, I was never down with that. But Jordan was
legit.
He was unattainable to me.
Yeah.
And so growing up, actually, my favorite player was Penny Hardaway.
Nice.
Because he also went against Jordan all the time. And he beat him in 95, which was great. And then he came out with his own shoe. With Lil Penny as a little, it was Chris Rock's voice.
Right.
The Lil Penny ad.
The whole ad.
Man, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love pennies. They were my favorite.
Yeah.
But so growing up, I couldn't have anything. My uncle, when I was in middle school, my uncle would buy me 1 pair of shoes a year. And that literally was like the best time ever. Like it was an adventure. Like I would go from shoe store to shoe store, trying on like 5, like the same shoes, like again and again and again.
Right.
And then finally, like 3 hours later, I would settle on my new shoes for the year.
Wow.
Mm.
And so that was like an adventure for me. So like looking back at it, like I couldn't have those things. And now it motivated me to one day get it myself. And so for me, it's just like it's like an achievement that I now have. Like I don't go flaunting my sneaker collection or anything like that. Like I've been collecting sneakers for over 20 years now. I've made a lot of great friends through it. A lot of cool opportunities, you know, just but for me, it's just like look at my shoes and I'm like, every once in a while, I'm like, I'm gonna sell my collection off and like buy a car or something like, you know. And then like I look at them,
some serious money.
serious money,
Serious money. And
it's
just
funny.
to go with the, sorry to cut you off, Joe, but people think the stereotype of sneakerheads are like, you know, kids from the hood or the urban areas. No, the real sneakerheads are really kids from Asian communities. They're the ones who, that's the number one, like best buyers and sellers and have a hold on them. It's fascinating. Like it's this whole culture, but people always equate it to just, oh, these, you know, these kids ain't got no money, but they're spending all this money on the sneakerhead game. When you're talking about it, it's a totally different environment, a totally different culture than just a kid saying, I want to buy Jordans because, like you said, it's a status symbol. It's a lot more different than that. And it's not a stereotype. It's just the fact that it's cool how they gravitate towards that culture as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I made friends of all colors, all ages, young, old. You know, you sometimes at some point I became like a mentor to the kids in the game, in the sneaker game. You know, I've had my own share of mentors who've guided me along the way. You know, it's a whole different world that you like a whole rabbit hole.
So show off your sneaker collection. Here's a picture of one pair. Talk to us about
Joe,
this.
talk to us about this one. Yeah.
So one guy I didn't get the chance to talk about is Pharrell. Pharrell Williams, half of the Neptunes. When another turning point for me when it came musically was when I realized that the beats, production value.
Right.
When I heard Grindin', I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. The Clips.
Yeah. The Clips. Yeah.
As soon as that beat drops, I'm like, what in the world am I listening to right now?
Right.
So that was that brought me into the whole world of all the stuff that they've produced. And they've worked with people like Britney Spears. One of my favorite albums of all time is the Justin Timberlake album, his first one, because that's and if you haven't listened to that, you all should go out and listen to it. Just listen to the beats, listen to the sound, because it's just like so futuristic and it's so different. And he will work with anyone. He's worked with Jay-Z, Snoop, you know, everyone. So these pair, my buddy and I skipped school one day in high school. I don't condone this, but Pharrell, his album had just come out in my mind. I forgot what year, 2003, something like that. And he was signing his CD at the Virgin Megastore in New York. So I was like, hey, we should skip school and just go up there and get our CD signed. You know, buy the CD, get it signed. So we're in line, we're waiting. I had these shoes in my backpack, and I'm next in line. I pull out my shoe, and the bodyguard or whoever is security is like, no, he's only signing the CD. And he sees him. He goes, no, it's cool. So he holds them in his hand. He's like, oh man, these are cool, because he'd been out for maybe a year or two at that point. And he was like, I got you, like, you know. So he signed it, and I was like, yeah, I'm like your biggest fan. Like,
that's sweet.
Cool. But yeah, Neptune's changed the game. I mean, you know, I think I want to say their first tune was like that NORE Super Thug. Yeah. And it was funny because that was such a like raw beat, right? But then
Noriega's he's filthy with it. Like he doesn't play around. Like
but even like the way they match right with lyricists. But like you said, I remember when I first heard Grinding too, Joe. I mean, this is like it like the beats make you take notice, right? Just insanity, you know.
That's when I mean, I followed him around. Like I went on tour. So my email address is Joe's a Nerd, because like his band, the band that he had, he called it a rock band, was NERD, and it stood for No One Ever Really Dies. And so like for me, it was like, damn, that's deep too. Like like
you put Virginia Beach kind of on the map, him and Missy Elliott.
Yeah.
That area. Yeah. So show off some of your other shoes, and I'll show off some of mine.
All right, I'll save the one. So,
and I'll show my one.
So this is a LeBron shoe after he won his first or second championship with the Heat, and it's all corked based off of a champagne bottle.
Oh wow!
So it's a celebration shoe that, you know, he won a championship.
Do you ever wear those?
These are not worn, but I have. Okay. I mean, I try to wear a lot of my shoes,
Okay.
because I'm a collector. I'm not a reseller
Right.
necessarily.
Okay.
Second favorite player of all time. I mean, he's coming close to the top is Kobe. Kobe out. Rest in peace. You know,
No
like
doubt,
when
no
he
doubt.
passed away, like that was my heart
That was
broke.
devastating.
Yeah, still, yeah, definitely.
It's funny because the value of his shoes just skyrocketed after his death,
I'm
and people
sure.
started contacting me like, "Hey, you selling anything?" I'm like, "No,
No way.
that's not
Right.
why this is
That's
happening."
crazy. Yeah.
I have
Yeah. Shoes are,
quite a few of
they're
those.
mean game.
Yep.
These are a newer pair of Pharrell shoes that he came out with. So he has a collaboration with Adidas, and one says human, the other one says race on it. It's a human race.
That's
Hmm.
cool.
These are called the human racers.
I think Pharrell's a vampire because he doesn't age either. Like he looks the same.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never
he's like
ever ages, right?
yeah, fountain of youth for sure. Yeah.
You guys know
So
what this is?
Oh, those are foam posits, right?
Composites, yeah. So Penny
Yeah.
Hardaway, Air Penny ones.
Okay. Oh, nice, nice.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
that
what are you about to
color,
show us,
that
beer?
color. So I think you have to have your class. Okay, you want to show off? I got mine too. So here we go.
I got nothing.
Now the story is with these is the fact that my brother texted me. He's like, "Listen, Space Jams are coming out, anniversary for the movie, and my brothers own a store. So let me throw out their handle on Instagram if you want to follow them. They're Hangtime Indie at Hangtime Indie for Instagram." So my brother texted me and he's like, "Listen, we're gonna get the Space Jams. We get them before, and I can send you a pair before they drop. Do you want a pair?" I'm like to him, "You don't have to ask me twice because I get them for free, right? So that's even better." So I get them, and I believe it was before Christmas that they dropped, not Thanksgiving, it was Christmas. And I wore them to work. I was in a middle school at the time. You would think like Michael Jackson came back from the dead and people were following or something. I created almost a stampede with these shoes because again, I was wearing them before anybody else was, and kids were just wondering like, how's this Muslim hijabi chick fly with these shoes that nobody else has? So it was a really fun experience because I made connections based on a shoe, but I think they also have sentimental value. So I do like that. They're not. I'm going to be honest. They're not comfortable. I don't know how Jordan used to play with his shoes on. I don't think they're comfortable. And I think you can't be a sneakerhead without classics. Air Force Ones. You can wear them with a dress. You can wear them with pants. I think they're one of the best shoes out there. What you got, Doug?
So you can have them in high, top, or low, and then we have the high tops, right?
Yes.
So these are the Air Force Ones.
There you go.
High top with the strap. These are anniversary edition.
Sole. Look at that sole.
82 got the sole, got the little contrast going on. So that's about it for my collection. But these spoke to me. I did Air Force Ones, a classic.
A beer. Something you just said resonated a lot with me. Is just like kids see you as a Muslim hijabi woman, and they're like, "Whoa, like that's fly,"
Right.
Like that's what sneakers does. Like for me in my life, that's what sneakers have been able to do for me. Is like again the friendships I've been able to make off of it. I've sold shoes to celebrities before, and I mean, I don't, they're not friends or anything like that, but like just connections that you can make through this thing is. I teach in sneakers, and kids will be like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" Like, again, I'm,
right.
It's so like you're absolutely right. Like there's something so much more to it. You get that nod,
According to Vernon, he's
right, the telling nod. There you go. There you go. See, Vernon's giving a beer that nod.
Yeah, Vernon's got
my hair flip, right?
right.
So, and it is that that unifier that it's a great conversation piece as well with kids, and because you have a lot of kids who same with us, like we grew up poor, we couldn't afford things, right? And then when you get to that, it's not just a status symbol; it's more of like, yeah, I made it.
Right. Absolutely,
I got out of it. This is proof, and this is why I'm doing it. So that's a really, really good comment.
And earlier you said like golf and sneakers can't be the more contrasting things. That's why I golf is because I'm not supposed to.
Right.
I wasn't made to. I wasn't put on earth to golf, according to some people.
Correct.
So I show up on a golf course wearing a t-shirt sometimes, and I'll play, and I've gotten pretty good at it, So like I want to keep playing, keep going out there, and just showing up. You gotta keep showing up.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so Joe, let's get back to we've been on hip hop, right, which is good. That's what we always do on the last Wednesday. So in your photo that we showed coming on, it was you and the wife. You had your "I voted" sticker, so we know that you've got some politics in you somewhere. So I'm just curious, and I got my story I can tell, but how has hip hop influenced your political outlook?
Have you guys listened to Pimp a Butterfly? I'm sure you have, right? Kendrick's album.
I have. Yep. Yeah.
Before that came out, I wasn't a fan of Kendrick at all. You know, first of all, like West Coast, you know, like, but then like, and his delivery was different. The way his voice was different, and so I was like, I couldn't get into that. With Good City, Mad Kid, it was like something Good Kid, Mad City, I think it was called.
Yeah.
But then when Pimp a Butterfly came out, I was like, whoa, like this is when we talk about poetry, like you know, standing up for the Black community, for people without power, and like we didn't have much of that. Like I don't like, you know, I looked a little into like politics and hip hop and like, you know, Chuck D and like Ice Cube back in, like I didn't grow up with that.
Right. You probably weren't even born when they were rapping, but okay.
I was born, I was there. But to hear rappers take that platform for that reason,
right.
For activism was something different and something new for me. Diddy came out what 2008, rock the vote or die, was that the saying at that point? And that was big, but it wasn't until Obama came around that I actually got into politics.
Okay.
And that wasn't necessarily hip hop, but the hip hop community backed him.
Right.
They embraced him.
And so that was huge. And like thinking about like not just the injustices that everyone was suffering, but like his whole rhetoric was unity and hope.
Right.
And that was something I can get behind.
Yes, we can was his, you know, motto.
But back then, like, you know, like I alluded to earlier in an episode, like I was afraid to voice my opinion because I felt like I didn't know enough. Who am I to say this, that, and the other? Whereas, you know, like I knew in my heart that what he stood for was everything I stood for. You know, and I'm not looking to cast my vote for my Lord and Savior. Like I already got that. You know, I just need somebody to tell the kids that I'm working with that, hey, you're going to be all right. You just got to stick together. You got to be kind, work hard, and you got this.
Right.
You know, and then we can do the rest. Like we're a community of people who have to work together. And obviously that's not the message we're getting, you know, recently.
Right.
And so when 2016 happened, my heart broke. I died a little, I felt. And I just like lost all, I'm being way too dramatic right now, but like I felt like I lost all hope in humanity. And so like we've been building back since then, and I've realized like you can only control what you can control.
Correct.
You know, and so just trying to.
But it also goes back to what you said, Joe. I mean, you know, your heart broke, and you can only control what you can control, but it also shouldn't stop you from being who you are. With you saying you play golf, because even Vernon says it. He loves that you said, I play golf because I'm not supposed to. And that's exactly what is happening, is the powers that be don't want you to be you and do you and voice you. So we can't also let that stop us from doing what we want to do, going against the tide of what this whole, you know, administration or this political climate is about as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's been the flip, right? I mean, I know I've said it, but like really the Obama presidency made room for the current administration.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because you everything you talked about, Joe, I see us absent that. And if you think about the hyper marginalization and the othering, think about everyone's been putting all these you know, these categories now, like, you know, and then I guess what's left is those that, you know, can make America great again. I guess it's supposed to be this segment. And I would offer this, the three of us don't fit in there. So, right. I mean, no news there. But like you said, it's a totally different message than we got to stick together. We got to have hope, you know, which I'm like you. I mean, I could use a message like that. I mean, the other day they were talking, I saw on 60 Minutes, they asked Joe Biden, what do you think about people who are voting against 45 as opposed to voting for Joe Biden? And, you know, I mean, that's kind of my thing. I don't ride with Joe Biden like that, you know, but, you know what I'm saying? But I got to vote, and, you know, but like that's real.
Evils, as they say.
That's what they say, right? You know, Karras one said, you still voting for evil. That's what he said. But, you know.
Yeah. I mean, politics is politics, right? Like we're not looking. And again, like people show up every 4 years to actually care about these things. As educators, I feel like we're in the streets every single day, trying to make a difference, trying to inspire, you know, the future. That's what we're thinking about. But then like people show up and you can I've never seen America be so self-centered as it is today.
I think it's always been there. It's just heightened.
Yeah.
And there's a really good podcast by Malcolm Gladwell, who I love. He does revisionist history, and he spoke about how in, I think it was Australia, they elected their first female prime minister, and how, first female, we haven't even had a first female president, but
Right.
the premise of the podcast was the fact that they voted for her. Of course, the people who didn't like it made her life miserable, but the backlash to that was a female prime minister has never been elected since. So that's very similar to the Obama thing. We had 8 years of a black president. We ain't going to do it again.
Right.
That's what people are saying. We can't go back to that because of what happened. So
Right.
it's not so much that Americans are arrogant or self-centered. It's kind of always been there. Me growing up as an Arab, Muslim, female, I've always seen it, especially when it comes to politics in the Middle East. That whole othering and the whole concept of them against us. And I'm like, well, where do I stand?
Right.
So I think it's always been there, but it's just heightened to the point of it's just more, they're more blazing about it.
Right.
And more open about it, So that leads us to the good segue to the next one. What are your thoughts on the involvement of hip hop figures like Kanye, Ice Cube, Diddy, and others in this year's election? I think it's the first time I see so many people so involved and outspoken. Like before, like you said, I remember growing up with MTV and, Rock the Vote and, that, but it was very basic. Just go out and vote, but not so polarizing as this. So what's your thought on that?
So I have quite a few pair of Kanye shoes. I even have pairs ready for a child that I don't have yet. But I have quite the collection of Kanye shoes. And in 2016, when he came out in support of the president, I was like, F this, F him. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to get rid of all of them. I'm going to burn them, I'm going to sell them. And like, that was the first time I had to take a step back and be like, at what point do we separate the art from the artist kind of thing?
Right.
And thinking about how much of an influence he had on me growing up and where he is today. I think it's just very telling that, how people are super complex and they go through all sorts of different things, like it highlights his mental illness and a lot of stuff that he's going through. It doesn't mean I have to rock with him anymore. I don't at all,
Right.
But I wish for the best, for him. But yeah, so Kanye, I mean, he's the one who said George Bush doesn't like black people. He came out and said that. And
I remember
now he's standing for Donald Trump.
Yep.
Remember, that was pre-Kardashian. Because like now people are saying pre-COVID and post-COVID soon. Pre-Kardashian.
Definitely a timeline, dividing line there.
I think it's great that people use their platform to speak up on things like this.
Okay. Yes.
LeBron James did that. Diddy does that. Kendrick does that. And I think it's great that they do that. And instead of the talking heads are going to be like, shut up and dribble, shut up and rap. Who is listening to you? But I think as a people, we look up to those that inspire us with their art. Their expression of however they want to express themselves, and we look up to them for their opinion. Like that's the culture we live in. Is that we look to these people and we say, "What do you think?"
Right.
As we grow in our own identities and try to figure out our own things, like that helps build on what we think.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm in agreement with Joe. I mean, I guess so my hip hop influence, I mean, I'm coming from like the Public Enemy, KRS One era, some X-Clan, a lot of 5% Nation. So it was just like this black nationalist vibe, feel. I mean, even the native tongues. But it certainly was this pro-black love type of vibe. And then I just remember for many years, hip hop wasn't putting any of that out. And to see, like you said, folks that have some means, have a voice, have a platform, to hear them speak and use their platform, it is encouraging. I agree. I mean, who knows where Kanye is going next? I mean, he's like Joe said, he's talked about his mental illness. He's got probably more money than anybody knows what to do with. He's got fame. He's got all that. And you're watching somebody kind of live out in public. So you got him and what he's doing. you got Ice Cube to me seeming like almost it's the same Ice Cube I remember from when he went solo from NWA. This how do we do for self?
Right.
Take care of himself, his family, his community. So yeah, I do like the voices being used. And then like I said, Diddy's been in the game so long.
Right.
Definitely good to hear him. He's got the Black Party that he's riding for.
So Ice Cube's working with the Trump administration on Black issues. Is that what he's doing?
So I think you going to go ahead, Amir, because I've studied this closely. So I have.
I haven't studied it closely, but I've snippets, and just my take on it is, I wouldn't say that he's like chumming it up with Trump. Ice Cube is no punk. Let's put it that way. Like, he doesn't have a legacy for no reason, and he's still relevant. Like, people are still, talking about what he's doing. He wants to make sure that if 45 wins again, this is what you're going to be doing for the Black community. So it's not so much, hey, by the way, like I said, chumming it up, but that's his take on, and I'm saying it very loosely. I'm sure Doug can speak on it a little bit more, but that's basically it. But I think what he's showing is the fact that, going back to what you talked about, how, I want to burn, Kanye's sneakers or want to get rid of them. He didn't polarize the thing. He knows who to work with in order to get what he needs. Some people may look at it and look at him sideways and say, you shouldn't be doing that. Put your hand with the devil and get what you want. Other people are saying it's a smart move. So I think it depends on what side of the fence you're on.
Yeah. But I think you got to look at the timeline, right? So like around July, he came out with his contract for Black America. And he worked with other people, but he presented it like, this is my plan. And if you look at him, to me, the clip he did with Chris Cuomo a couple of weeks ago on CNN really clarified it. It's his plan. He mentioned, he said it's a plan for Black America. He said, I'm not saying minorities. I'm not saying people of color. He's like, this is for Black America. He's like, this is what I feel Black America needs. And then another concept attached to that isn't, new at all, is the fact that Black folks seem to vote Democrat. Just right, like just almost like and he's like, what are we getting in return for our vote? So he said, I'm taking my plan, I'm going to the two major political parties, and I want to present my plan. The Democrats told him, we'll talk after the election, and then the Republicans said, we'll talk now. And then I guess Trump's folks created the Platinum Plan, and then they kind of got conflated, and then they did the tweet, and all this other business. So I think what Cube clarified is, no, I have a plan. And the other thing you point out too is, plan isn't just public sector. It's not just about the government. It's about private sector too. So I'm glad I read the plan when it came out, because it gave me some insight. Now, like you said, you can, just like Abir, you can debate on his timing. Some people are like, you're going to just disrupt the whole, election. We can't afford that to happen. Again, I think you want to hear directly from Ice Cube. And I even think about a clip. I remember our good friend Keith had a clip from like in the late 90s in Ice Cube. I mean, it's almost like years later, he's really the same. I mean, he's so, to me, genuine and sincere about what he's trying to achieve. And he speaks with such clarity to me. I mean, he puts it out there. You could still say, right, you like it, you don't like it, you got to critique. But I would get it straight from him. But to say he's working with the administration, now that's, to me, that's not accurate. Did he present a plan to them and said, I want you to look at this plan and this is the plan I want to see come to fruition? Yeah, he said that to both parties. So again, one party went now.
I think
Republicans
it also goes
said they look
to
now.
prove what's that?
No, I didn't say anything. You kind of froze up.
I'm sorry.
For a minute. Yeah.
Sorry. No, what I was going to say is, I think also Ice Cube is proving a point that a lot of people always say, which is, you have all these Black celebrities in the community. Why aren't they doing something for the community? And he is doing something legit for the community. So I think the problem is, it's like more than one layer. And people are just taking out that piece that he met with the Trump administration, where I think regardless if Trump or Biden wins, Cube is still going to go on with what he wants to do.
Thank you. That's the key. He
just was thinking, hey, if I can put this on a national platform, so be it. He wants to get it entrenched in the politics of it. But again, I said, Cube is no punk. And he knows what he's doing. And he's like, with or without you guys, I'm going to do it. But I think he's doing something that a lot of people are always, talk about, this whole concept of, the wealthy doing for the communities. But I think regardless of whatever administration, he's going to do what he wants to do. So
Right. I agree.
All righty.
All right. So that was heavy. Let's lighten it up a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. We've been talking about this a few times. You and I,
Mhm.
phone calls, text messages. But all right, here it is. Joe's top 5. Give it to us, Joe. And then you decide top 5. You can go MCs. You can go. You mentioned how much you were into some production, but what you got for your top 5?
All right, so I listed 10 earlier. I guess if I was to make my top 5, Pharrell will be number 1. I think he was the most game-changing personality in my life because it allowed me to branch out more than ever before. For me to say a Justin Timberlake CD is one of my favorite albums of all time, that's wild, but that's purely based off production value.
Right.
I think it's that good at production. Number 2, I go Nas. That's my guy. 3.
Why is choice? Why is choice?
I don't need a why, right?
I don't need a why.
No, you don't need a why. We all know y'all. There's an obsession with Nas.
Queens. He's a Queens kid.
Exactly. You're Queens kid, and I know all about Doug and his Nas.
Number 3, I say Wu-Tang. Number 3, I say Wu-Tang Clan.
Nice.
One of my crowning moments in life was when I was able to listen to 36 Chambers and know who sang what verse.
Nice.
Like that was a big moment for me.
That's cool.
You're so proud of yourself.
Right. She 9 MCs. That's no small feat. Right?
Some of them were like easier than others, and I'm like Inspector Deck. I'm like, I don't know which one is him. Or then I say Kanye.
Okay.
I do miss the old Kanye. But he ushered all the other dudes in, you know.
Right.
Drake, J. Cole, Chance. Like he gave Chance a chance.
The Chicago Brothers, you know.
Yeah. Did I say Jay-Z?
Nope.
I'll round it out with Jay-Z then.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my top 5.
A decent top 5. It's funny how everybody's top 5, there's always a Chicago connection. I can't help it, you know.
But there's always New York too.
Whatever. I'm happy there's Chicago connection. Could be anybody else. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know hip hop. I'm no historian. I can't recite lyrics back to you, but I know that my personal journey with it, it helps tell my story. You know,
absolutely. And that is the power of hip hop. Is that it transcends people.
Right.
Like a while ago, we showed a clip of Palestinian girls rapping in hip hop about their struggle. It's amazing, you know, just how it crosses culture and language. They're rapping in Arabic. You know how hard that is? Like Arabic is not an easy language. You know, it doesn't roll off your tongue like that. So yeah, that's powerful that you said that.
It definitely has transcended the world. I mean, you see rap in all different languages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, do we have time for one more story? Can I have one?
Sure.
So you see this hat I'm wearing right now? It's a Rock Nation hat, which is Jay-Z's company. Yep. But the reason I love this so much is because it had the Maryland flag on it.
Oh, that's cool.
So like,
why did
it's
they have
like
the Maryland flag on it? That's interesting.
Yeah. So like in the inside, you see, I don't know if you see that or not. But
it's got the
status on there. So I went to this barbecue spot called Big Bag Wolf on Hartford Road.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
In Baltimore. Yep. And I was wearing this hat. I had on some cool shoes or whatever, you know. And the dude standing next to me was like, "Yo," he's like, "Hey, do I know you from somewhere?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Have I heard anything you've done?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "You're a rapper, right?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Oh, but he's like, you got the Rock Nation hat on. You're dressed so fly. Like you gotta be, you gotta be you're somebody, right?" I'm like, "I'm a teacher." He's like, "What?" He's like, "What?" So he's like, so I was getting my food to go, but this is before the pandemic. And he sits down, he's like, "Yeah, you want to have lunch? You want to chop it up?" I was like, "Sure." So I sit down, we end up talking for over an hour. My guy is a drug dealer who he said he's trying to get out of it, trying to make enough money to get out of it. Okay. So we talked about teaching. He goes, "And if I had a teacher like you, like, you know, you're so cool, you're so down to earth. Like I've never experienced a teacher like you before. You know, like, if I would have had a teacher like you, maybe I would have been something." I was like, you still can be something. Like, you know, if you've made enough money, you can get out of this and like do your own, like, you know." So it got to be like this whole big thing because of the hat I was wearing. You know, so like it's another story of how hip hop, shoes, and everything just ties together.
That's right.
Into what into what we're doing every day. Is that we're trying to make a difference, and we can do that by being our authentic selves,
Right.
Liking what we like, being who we are. And I love that, like the fact you guys have me on again, like I love the relationship that we've built throughout the past year, and just appreciate the space and the time.
Yeah.
Well,
We appreciate you too, Joe.
taking up that space and time, Joe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, Joe. So on the back, does that say Baltimore on the back?
We always
Oh, this is Rock Nation.
Oh, it's Rock Nation on the back. Got you. Just got the
Rock
Maryland
Nation.
flag. That's unique though. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice try, Doug. No Baltimore there. So.
Tried. Gotta counter that Chicago energy that's coming at us every week.
I love Maryland. It's helped open my eyes to more than New York.
I agree. You know what? I'm in agreement with you on that one. Like I always tell people, like I rep Chicago hard, especially the South Side. I love the city. I will never move back. I love living on the East Coast, and Maryland is a state that is like in between it all. You hop in a car, you're in Philly an hour and a half away, 3 hours you're in New York, 45 minutes you're in DC, like just the locale, but also there's something about Maryland that is unique. It's not so much total East Coast. It's not country. It's not city. I mean, I love being here. I'm not going to lie. I mean, and I agree with you, Joe. It's opened up my eyes to a lot of things as well that had I stayed in Chicago, I don't think I would have the experiences that I've had moving. I sure wouldn't have met you two. Right. So that's a plus, right?
Well, welcome to my home, you two.
Thank you, Douglas.
Yes. So we gotta get you some new sneakers. That's all I know.
We know his size too, so there you go.
I will gladly accept them.
So we always end up our show with two of our famous questions. So the first one's always my famous one. Which artist would you have perform an album about your life and why? And what would the title of the album be?
This is an easy one for me. It would be the Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay.
And it would be called Wu-Tang, but spelled T-E-N-G.
Oh, I like that.
I didn't see that one coming. Oh,
I love the idea of them all doing it because they're all so different, and they could bring the different variety of it. And I feel like a little bit of what I shared today is that I have all sorts of stuff going on in my life, and it's all from different areas. But in everything you do, you put your heart into it, and I think that's the most important part is that passion seeps through.
Yeah. Wow, that's a nice spin. Wu-Tang and spell it T-E-N-G.
Love it.
Yes, that's classic. All right, and last but not least, the piece de
resistance. All right, Joe, you know what's coming next. All right, we've seen you in the chat making comments. All right, now you're on the hot seat. And I, once again, give Joe a shout out because he gave me my first sheet of hip hop stickers. So shout out to the U.S. Post Office. Shout out to Joe Teng, my man. All right, Joe, 4x4. You know how we do this. So you got 4 pillars of hip hop: your MCing, DJing, breakdancing, graffiti art.
The first time you did this, I was like, why are these the pillars? Like that's how green I am. I'm like, why are these the pillars of hip hop? Like, is really like b-boying like really? I started watching Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix.
Nice.
And that takes it back. And like the idea of b-boy, it really, so the idea of that break is like the music, the beat came from the breaks in songs.
Yep.
And that's where they got the term break boys from.
Yep.
The pillars, just to give you.
Joe's done his study. They're the pillars, right? I didn't make them up as Joe. You still had nothing for us. You're trying to distract us.
Graffiti artist. I've seen people say Basquiat. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Basquiat. Yeah, he's been. I just watched a doc on him. Yeah, he's been often named.
Yeah, I mean, I think his whole story is unique.
Yeah.
And just it's tragic that he died at such an early age. I'll say him because I can definitely vibe with some of the stuff he's put out there. Let's see, MC. I'll go with Nas again. He put out Illmatic. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, change the game.
B-boy. Let's say. I said the Jabberwockies last time because they had that show. My boy Eric, growing up, he was the coolest breakdancer I knew, and I always wanted to try to be like him. So I'm gonna say Eric.
Okay, cool.
Haven't talked to him in like 20 years, but that's okay. Like, I still remember him just getting down and just, all over the place.
Nice. Hope you're watching, Eric. Shout out.
And what's the other one?
You got a DJ.
DJ. Last time I said DJ Clue because of that mixtape era growing up.
Mhm.
Now I'll say DJ Premier.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's
I started listening to a
time.
lot of Gangstar lately, and I thought that
Mhm.
was real talent back then.
Perfect. Yep.
He's still on top of it.
Yeah. Get that full clip, Joe. I don't know if you checked that full clip double album. It's like a greatest hits.
Mhm.
Came out. It's been out for a while, but that's a nice compilation for
Yeah.
Gangstar there. But I tell you, Joe got a good ear, man. Good guy. That's my guy.
You're one of his favorites.
Yes, you
to
are,
be on
Joe.
the show.
Yes,
You
you
are.
are.
You're
Yeah,
one of
he
those,
is. He is.
thing. And it's
Yes, he
funny
is.
you talk about New York because we have a comment from a good friend of mine who we taught at Parkville together, Tim Scherer. Do you know
I
each
know
other,
Tim.
Joe?
Yeah, I went to grad school with Tim.
There you go.
Nice.
Incredibly happy I
Tim
stumbled
is a
upon.
Jets fan and a Mets fan as well.
Yes.
Hope you're doing well, Tim.
And he bought a new house. Congratulations on the house, Tim. Awesome to hear you all speak on this topic. Thank you for joining us today, Tim. It's always nice to see you.
Yes. Stumble back too, Tim, and subscribe.
Yes.
Come on back.
Don't
We
hold
appreciate
back.
you.
So
Yes.
speaking of subscribe, here's our YouTube channel, Real Talk Our Space. And again, if you want to send us a shout out, ideas, tell us what we're doing wrong or right, realtalkourspace@gmail.com. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was talking to Brendan Penn about over the summer during the pandemic about doing a podcast because we're both from New York and we moved to Maryland. So we're going to talk a little bit about just some of the adventures that we have gone through, in that transition.
It's awesome. I think the thing I love about New York is it's so diverse. Like you can have all these people from different backgrounds, and there's always some sort of like symbiosis between everybody from New York. So I'm looking forward to it. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes, you heard it here first on Real Talk.
That's right.
Waiting for Joe and Brendan's podcast to drop.
We will be checking it out, tuning it in, promoting it, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So
all right.
Thank
Joe,
you,
thanks for coming back. We appreciate you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I love you both. And just keep it up, man. Just keep it up.
We'll do. Love you too, Joe. Take care. Be safe.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right.
It's always lovely to have him on the show.
I know Joe is that's my guy. I love it. I mean, just
that was a great spin on the album.
It was. I didn't see that coming. Joe, that's brilliant. And I think can I still show stuff?
Yes.
So Julia made this comment earlier, but yes, Joe, thank you for sharing your story. I think that sums it up. And there's the love that Joe spreads. So certainly appreciate that. So Abir, what we got? Tim's, but yeah.
I'm so excited Tim is on tuning in. Thanks a lot, Tim. Nice to see you. Yes. So next week is November. So there are a few changes though before we talk about who our guests are. We won't be on every week. We want to, add a little bit more intensity to our program. So we'll be doing shows about every 2 weeks. So we'll be scaling down on that, but we won't be scaling down on the topics and on the guests either. So next week, our theme for November is growing and developing leaders. Our guests will be 2 school administrators, Dr. Candace Taylor, who is the principal at a middle school in Baltimore County, who is also my mentor and my administrator. So I have a lot to say about her and who I became as a person. And also Ms. Vilma Nehera, who is also an assistant principal for a high school in Montgomery County, Maryland. So they'll share their insight and experiences on our theme. And of course, being women of color, their experiences as administrators and leaders and developing that for other teachers and educators of color. So please join in.
Yes, please do. Please do.
And all right. Music shout out.
Yes, always shout out to Corey Carter for bringing in the musical aspects of our show. We appreciate you, Corey. Our intro and outro music, courtesy production by Corey Carter. So we appreciate him. Got to give him his props. So I think that about wraps it up
Twitter
for
handle
us.
is Mr. Carter.
Oh, I'm sorry. At Mr. Carter Teach.
Yes.
Yep. Check Corey's out. He's always doing some good stuff.
Yes. All right, Douglas. So we will meet next week.
Yes. We will be back next week.
Administrators and our theme. Sounds good. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. See you then.